started thinking about how fragile life is and how ill-prepared we are for this. The story I'm about to tell you is about the vulnerability of America's power system, our grid. And it's also about a series of forces and individuals who, instead of doing the right thing for you and me, are interfering with the ability to protect our way of life. Who of us could ever envision a 9/11 happening? But the difference between 9/11 and what I'm about to tell you is that we know this can happen. The question is not will it happen, but when will it happen? But Washington is doing little, if anything, to prevent it. And the consequences, those consequences would be 1,000,000 times worse than 9/11. One day you're enjoying the comforts of life. The next, everything is different. Civilization as you know it is gone. The death toll would be staggering. Even a blue ribbon congressional commission predicted a major catastrophe with mass American fatalities. And government studies prove an electromagnetic pulse would destroy all electronics and the transformers that power everything, anything, with an on-off switch. Your hot water heater, your refrigerator, your dialysis machine. Hospitals closed, grocery shelves empty. Most of the food you have at home spoiled. And forget about your bank accounts. What you have in your pocket is all you can access. The disaster that I'm talking about can be unleashed naturally by an intense solar flare or deliberately by an enemy detonating a nuclear weapon in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, the Earth is exposed to an intense solar flaring roughly every 150 years. The last time it occurred was 1859. Do the math. We're due. Now, I'm not saying this to panic anyone, but everyone, including our enemies, knows that an artificially created electromagnetic pulse will shut down all power, which risks our survival. The question is not will it happen, but when will it happen?
Your 401k took a hit. You're not alone. The Dow dropping 326 points. That is the biggest drop this year. And things may not be getting any better for your savings.
Hey, Lauren. Ainsley, yesterday was ugly. U.S. stocks got rocked. Once again, the Dow now down more than 7% in 2014, and the losses are eating into a lot of the gains your 401k saw last year. The sell-off being caused by concerns building in Asia and the cold weather here at home affecting things as well.
How do you solve a problem where you're spending 10% of, you're running a 10% fiscal deficit? You're not going to get growth in the absence of private sector credit demand. So the government's idea right now is we're going to export our way out of this. And when I asked a senior member of the Obama administration last week, how are we going to grow exports if we won't allow nominal wage deflation? And he says, we're just going to kill the dollar. And I said, okay, more you mean. So that's the only answer. And
that's a dead answer.
It's a dead answer, but that's where we're headed.
blood moon is a full lunar eclipse, and 4 of them in a row is called a tetrad. When they've occurred on the Jewish high holy days, it's coincided with major historical events, like the Six-Day War in 1967. 4 blood moons on the Jewish high holy days has happened only 3 times in the last 500 years. The next time it occurs is starting next spring on the Jewish Passover.
The recent discoveries released by NASA, the National Aeronautical Space Association, literally the best scientists in the world, predicting the coming 4 blood moons. They are predicting that there will be 4 blood moons that begin April 15th, 2014. That there will be a second, October the 8th, 2014. That there will be a solar eclipse in the month of March, the 20th of 2015. A third blood moon in April the 4th, 2015. A fourth blood moon, September the 28th, 2015. I want you to read my lips. These are NASA's predictions, not mine.
You know, as you're very well aware of all the prophecies, you know, about signs in the heavens and the sun turning to darkness and the moon to blood. And so as I was looking this, I went to NASA's website because they have 5,000 years of eclipses recorded. Because God created everything mathematically, they can do this.
Right.
Well, I noticed that there were 4 total blood moons or total lunar eclipses in a row in 2014 and 2015. They fell on Passover and the Feast of Tabernacles in 2014, and then again on Passover and Tabernacles in 2015. I was blown away to see these 4 blood moons falling on the feast days, and I wondered how often does that happen? And I noticed it didn't happen at all in the 1800s, the 1700s, the 1600s. And so I went to the 1900s, and lo and behold, twice there were 4 blood moons in a row. And guess what years they fell? This is what we talked about, 1967 and 68 when Israel captured Jerusalem. And then right after Israel became a nation in 1948. They happened in 1949 and 1950. And so I thought this is an awesome sign. I mean, in Genesis 1:14, God said He created the sun, the moon, and the stars to send signs. Typically, you only have 1 total lunar eclipse every few years. But to have 4 together in 2 years, tied to the biblical holidays, that's huge.
Quick and continuing reaction today after a nuclear deal was reached with Iran late last night. In exchange for rolling back its nuclear program, Iran gets an easing of many sanctions. But it's not a long-term deal.
Under the 6-month deal, Iran agreed to destroy its stockpile of weapons-grade uranium, restrict its production of nuclear fuel, and give inspectors daily access to select nuclear facilities. Speaking after the deal was announced, President Obama warned Iran that they must comply.
And if Iran does not fully meet its commitments during the 6-month phase, we will turn off the relief and ratchet up the pressure.
Skeptics, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, slammed the deal, calling it a historic mistake that would allow Iran to get closer to making a bomb.
And now the hard part begins. The U.S. and its allies have about 6 months to monitor Iran's progress.
Israeli and Palestinian negotiators will seek to reach a peace agreement within 9 months.
Our objective will be to achieve a final status agreement over the course of the next 9 months.
The United States is seeking to broker an agreement on a 2-state solution in which Israel would exist peacefully alongside a new Palestinian state created in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, lands occupied by the Israelis since the 1967 war.
Secretary of State John Kerry is getting ready to return to the Middle East for peace talks with Israel and Palestinian officials. This video is from a trip he made there earlier this month, and we know the timing is important. Just last week, Israeli government expressed anger over learning the United States had been gathering intelligence on them through the NSA. Kerry's expected to leave on New Year's Day in what will be his 10th trip to that region since March, all part of a push to move the peace process.
This is the postcard from Jerusalem It's not often to see the old city in the golden dome with the Dome of the Rock blanketed in snow.
Residents in Jerusalem battled to return to normality on Sunday after a powerful winter storm lasting days covered the city in snow. Most of Israel, including the West Bank, has been affected by the storm. This is the most severe snowstorm in decades in Israel.
Hubo gente que salió despedida con los coches.
Now, what was strange about this is that this man's speeches and directions for the whole world had to do with new times upon us as human beings, new directives for global peace, and the need to give up current citizenship for world citizenship. This man continually and constantly spoke of world order and the benefits of all men dwelling together in peace. Now, even though I was disturbed in the dream, I was also being pulled into this because it sounded very, very good. World peace sounds good until you see the cost. Let me tell you, there is no world peace. I constantly heard the word new order, world order, and new times.
Final thought from you, because you say openly in your essay that you're reserving judgment on all of this as we learn more over the next several weeks. But one of the things that you talk about in a broader perspective is global powers trying to rearrange themselves into a new global world order.
I think we have to watch it carefully to see whether, in fact, this is the opening of a new moment in international history.
So my freedoms and my patriotism were instantly being eroded from my understanding.
Our other big story, a clash between church and county, a place of worship being told to take down a sign with an American flag and a message to support the troops.
The church put up this sign to cover an old billboard that was run down. However, support the troops is becoming quite controversial here in Nevada County.
Why would you knock something that's got an American flag on it that says support our troops? I have no idea. I really don't.
Fourth grader Gracie Brown and her brother Luke put a lot of thought and effort into their Christmas cards.
It included Merry Christmas. And when you open it up, it says, "Thank you for your service," and the American flag.
52 students at Grace Academy in Prosper spent Friday morning making these cards.
I hope you have a blessed holiday.
They planned to hand deliver to bedridden veterans at the VA hospital in Dallas this morning. When Gracie and Luke's mom found out they wouldn't be able to, she was outraged.
This wasn't the country that I grew up in, that you couldn't say Merry Christmas. So we found out not only could you not say Merry Christmas, you couldn't say God bless you in a card, and you couldn't reference any scripture.
People were buying right into this plan that this man was releasing through the airwaves at staggering rates. No resistance. No one was fighting it. No one was saying anything publicly. I can't tell you if the airwaves were controlled to the point where you couldn't come on and say certain things. You can't just get on the three major networks and say what you want.
Superstar patriarch of Duck Dynasty, Phil Robertson, put on indefinite hiatus now by A&E for comments that he made to GQ magazine about homosexuality.
Well, Martha, after some heavy lobbying by gay community, A&E suspended Robertson for his personal comments made to GQ magazine by Barbara Walters, along with the Klan, described his family as Bible thumpers who just happened to end up on TV. In the article, he calls homosexuality a sin, and I'm quoting, "Everything is blurred on what's right and what's wrong. Start with homosexual behavior and just morph out from there. Bestiality, sleeping around with this woman and that woman and those men. Don't be deceived. Neither the adulterers, the idolaters, the male prostitutes, the homosexual offenders, the greedy, the drunkards, the slanderers, the swindlers, they will not inherit the kingdom of God."
On the top of them, I began to see cameras, little white oval-looking, hot dog kind of looking cameras. And in the dream, it was revealed to me that these cameras knew the whereabouts of everybody's vehicles.
The FBI is now revealing its next generation, if you will, effort to weed out the bad guys. As you mentioned, $1 billion. They've put it to the test so far in several states since February. The facial recognition system compiles mugshots, DNA information, iris scans, and voice recognition, which matches surveillance images with photos of known criminals. It can also track suspects in surveillance footage by honing in on their faces in a crowd. Several public advocates are also wary of the project, fearing it will eventually extend beyond criminals to include images of the innocent. It remains unclear, though, if images of the general public will also be included when it is nationally implemented by the year 2014.
Very unusual things began to happen with law. I began to see local municipalities, and no longer were police departments the enforcers of the law of municipalities, but military police driving very unusual looking vehicles that I now know to be called Humvees. These vehicles that I saw were black.
New crime fighting tool is so big,
some might call it a tank.
Hey, I think they are. Now, it's really called an MRAP. I checked on that. And tonight, these massive military vehicles are in the hands of 4 mid-state police agencies.
A handful of police departments are now getting them free of charge to protect their officers. Hendersonville's SWAT team already has 2 Humvees. The problem is they're not armored. The MRAP gives them that much-needed protection.
We plan to paint it black, just the same as our other tactical vehicles, and put police markings on it, and that's probably all we're going to do.
I see how God's hand guided me. When I began preaching many years ago, it was not with any thoughts that I'd be preaching to large audiences.
Come to the cross! His gospel is for everyone!
God has done this.
Christ is alive! In modern America today, there is a vacuum of the soul.
Our country's in great need of a spiritual awakening. Well, there have been times that I've wept as I've gone from city to city and I've seen how far people have wandered from God. Of all the things that I've seen and heard, there's only one message that can change people's lives and hearts.
There is a way if you come by the way of the cross.
I know that there are many people that dispute that. People don't want to hear that they're sinners. To many people, it's an offense. The cross is offensive because it directly confronts the evils which dominate so much of this world.
These 4 blood moons happen on a high holiday 4 times in a row with a solar eclipse in the middle is beyond the null hypothesis of probability. This is something that the Bible, using the sun, the moon, and the stars as a communication system to humanity, says something is about to change and world history is going to change forever.
This is one of the most recent volcanoes in Indonesia to come alive, as you can see here. Amazing shot. But it's not the only one, because 19 more volcanoes in Indonesia raised to alert level status. Look at this. All the way across here. 19 different volcanoes on alert status. So, we talk about earth changes. We haven't seen any significant quakes. I'm talking 7-pointers or above that's done significant damage to major cities or set up a tsunami. But we have been seeing 6-pointers, 6.1, 6.4s popping off around the planet. As you can see here, quarter of Slovenia homes in the dark. There's like you're talking the Ice Age type of blackout taking place. With total blackouts, you could see how they can't. It's probably an hour just to get into the car, uncovered, warmed up, and on the road. Man, they've got it better. Look at this shot. A third of Ecuador's province is covered with ash from this explosion. I mean, that's something that looks like you'd see in a movie. That backdrop is absolutely wicked. Almost looks like a nuclear bomb went off in the background. But this is the ash cloud of one of Ecuador's most active volcanoes here.
Now, look at this. Yesterday, the 6.1 in Indonesia. This is not where we need the pressure on the center of the earth, but that's where we're getting it. In Greece, remember the 6.1 a couple days ago? What's happened is they put 19 more volcanoes, including Krakatoa, or Anak Krakatoa, on alert today in Indonesia. 19 more. That brings a total of 21. But then this thing has erupted several times, but in 1883, it blew the island apart. Notice the diagram on the right. And in the center now, back in 1930, rose up a small island called Anak Krakatoa. So that's what we're dealing with. But each time on the major explosions of this thing, there's been major changes. Notice here a change in 1.2 degrees Celsius for 5 years. After that, in 1883, it happened back in 553 too. It affected the globe worldwide back then. So this is one to watch. When they start watching Krakatoa, we watch it too. Also, the underwater Kavachi volcano is erupting. Notice at the very tip, that's underwater fire boiling. You see the underwater stream there? Guys, there's a lot of things going on that we need to watch. Not just the volcanoes, not just the earthquakes and all. This is a look from space at both the plume and the fresh lava. And Krakatoa is not a flat island as you see it. Again, this is kind of risen from the ashes of the giant island that was blown apart.
Hey, we've got a problem here.
What did you do?
Nothing. I stirred the tanks.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we have a problem.
There's been a lot of buzz over the last few weeks about strange sounds being heard. People around the world and here at home have reported hearing some bizarre noises.
The city is still abuzz with talk about the sounds. Everybody with their own guess, estimation, or explanation as to where they came from.
I've heard that Jesus is coming back. I've heard that it's 2012, the world is ending.
This phenomenon stretched beyond North Battleford. Similar experiences were reported in Saskatoon, northern Saskatchewan, and parts of the U.S., even in Europe.
Now at 5, mysterious booms. We've told you about the loud sounds in Clintonville, and now similar noises are heard in Montello. Tonight in Clintonville, the city is trying to record the noises that have roused residents from bed in the past few days.
They set up audio and video recorders overnight. They didn't capture anything. The booms, though, started on Sunday, and residents are describing them as sounding like thunder, fireworks, or someone slamming a heavy door. The city will hold a meeting tonight to update residents on the investigation.
And tonight there are reports of more booming sounds.
A loud rumble last night that was apparently loud enough to shake walls and rattle windows. Last night the police department there received several reports of a loud rumble and a loud noise around 5:30. Police say they are investigating, but so far, they don't have an explanation.
We have a lot of good, reliable sources that reported this pretty much community-wide.
There was a loud boom, and all the windows shook, the whole house shook. And I looked out and couldn't see smoke or flames or anything.
Very strange.
Some strange noises heard around the world the last few weeks has people buzzing. From Arizona to England, all showing folks alarmed by what sounds like a noise straight out of a science fiction flick.
It's kind of like watching a scary movie. The background noise gives you the feeling that something terrible is about to happen. Some are calling it a harp-like noise, and it's especially eerie because even with the millions of views on YouTube and the thousands that ultimately heard the noise firsthand, even experts can't explain what the noises are. Oxford University graduate Alexander Wagner of NDSU's physics department has little in theory about what the noise is. He says most of the clips have a low frequency pitch, but the sound isn't necessarily coming from above.
Folks claim to have heard the noises for miles.
It's our big story at 10. Neighbors scared to go to sleep tonight after a series of unexplained explosions. The blasts and tremors sent people out into the street in their pajamas overnight. Now they fear it could happen again.
People in this community won't stop coming up to us tonight, telling us that they're still hearing this loud boom tonight, and then they feel the ground shake just a little bit. Now, this boom isn't coming up from the sky, but rather it's coming from down below.
It sounded like somebody was dropping bombs. House vibrated, the windows rattled, and it even shook the bed.
It came from down below.
That big bang.
Dennis Padilla heard it too.
Everybody was scared last night. Even my neighbors, they come running out of the house, they packed up and left.
Around 9:30 Sunday night, neighbors heard the strange sound. Hours later, 911 was hit with dozens of calls.
Continuing to be a mystery, but our question really will be as the temperatures drop if anything changes again.
The city is working with an engineering firm to monitor it. At this point, they only know what it can't be.
What we know from geologists down at UW-Madison is that this is clearly not consistent with earthquake activity, that typically happens about 1 mile below the Earth's surface or more.
They're also ruling out gas explosions.
What do you think it is?
Quiet community buzzing with fear.
I hope everybody can figure this out real soon before a lot of people get really concerned and may end up packing their stuff and putting their houses up for sale.
huge chance that this mystery may never be solved.
More than 300 people in Assumption Parish are under a mandatory evacuation order tonight as scientists try to figure out what caused a massive sinkhole in the swamp. The company that once had a salt mine near the site is about to start drilling a relief well to ease pressure underground. And as our Katie Moore reports, there are new questions about whether regulators failed to act to prevent all of this in the first place.
Right here on the left, you can still...
Dennis Landry lives and works on Bayou Corn. It's his backyard, and at the end of May,
we noticed some unusual bubbling near a pipeline crossing.
the residents around Bayou Corn started feeling tremors around the same time. By August 3rd, the swamp started to swallow itself. A massive sinkhole full of a salt and diesel-laden slurry opened up.
The collapse is about the size of a football field, maybe a little bit bigger.
We're hovering right now over the bubble sites, and after those were discovered, state officials closed off this section of the bayou. It's where a pipeline stretches all the way up toward the sinkhole.
It remains to be seen if that gas and the gas that could be found near the cavern are related. I mean, everybody's thinking right now, surely it has to be.
State emergency managers say there's a plugged salt mine underneath the ground near the sinkhole site that may have collapsed.
I think I saw a piece of hell there, because all you see when I went to it in an airboat and flew over it is a huge area where all you see is mud and water. Cypress trees have disappeared.
A company called Texas Brine Company operated the abandoned cavern. Residents nearby are under a mandatory evacuation order, including Landry. Not just because of the potential for an additional collapse, but because of the more than 50 caverns underground, one near the sinkhole site is being used as a butane storage cavern, a flammable, potentially explosive gas. Texas Brine will soon begin drilling a relief well to try and alleviate the pressure underground as scientists continue to try and solve the mystery in the swamp. Katie Moore, Channel 4, Eyewitness News.
The Department of Environmental Quality continues to monitor air quality in that area to ensure that no dangerous gases are leaking. They say the gas bubbling in the swamp is natural gas. More bubble sites keep appearing, something state emergency leaders are watching carefully.
And yeah, well, Jesse, I tell you what, because we're so used to technology, they've already installed one piece of the mark for us, which is to have us dependent on technology. Now, for a person who does not believe this, here's what those people who live in that time, but I always tell people, you pray, do the right things, that you may be worthy to escape all these things. That scripture's still there. That's right. But if we're stubborn and hard-headed, and we have not given ourselves over to the Father wholeheartedly, then, you may have to endure we're all going to endure something, but some may endure a lot more than others. I myself, I take no thought of what I may endure, because I exist to serve Him. And if I exist to serve Him, whatever He allows me to go through, then that's part of my purpose. And myself, I'm pleased with that. So I really don't take concern into my self-suffering. But I do want to see other people stand firm in full confidence of the Father when these days do come, because they are coming. And I have a fear that they're coming quickly, without notice to most. And it's going to take people off guard. It's going to catch them off guard. They're going to hit that point of being relaxed. They're going to disregard the signs in the heavens. They're going to disregard the earth expansion, the atmospheric compression. They're going to see lightning, Jesse, almost like those little lightning balls that they have with the gases and the lightning in there. This summer, they have recoated their vessels not only for the oceans, not only for the radiation compensation in the atmosphere, but for large electrical discharges, very large electrical discharges. Because if any body of significant size comes into this solar system, we're going to see electrical discharges from one of these objects to the other. And there's already to our south a large magnetic ball. It's a little bigger than Mercury, but it is not Mercury, and it is 100% magnetic, as far as they can tell right now. And you will not see that, out there until the effects begin to take place, and then they'll say, well, we discovered this magnetic ball, which is likely causing these influences, because they're going to announce something so terrible that it will seem hopeless to believe in anything on earth.
Michael, is it this magnetic ball, is it visible to the human eye, or is it?
No.
It's a ball.
No, in fact, Jesse, it is. Although it's solid, it is so dark. It is so dark. It's just. It would be almost impossible for an amateur astronomer to pick it up.
I understand.
Due to its outside chemistry, if you look at it through infrared, it kind of melds in with the other infrared objects out there, so it may look like a blur, although it's closer than one would anticipate, than one would like it to be. And there are things like that lurking around. We're just in that area, in that time period, where we're about to face these things. Some of them will be announced. It will be scary. I'll just tell you right up front, it's going to be scary. Nations are a little nervous about these things, because there's nothing they can do about it. Zero. They've already blown. I was going to say they already blew objects out of the sky, like Elenin. If people look up, if people, because you can't trust NASA. All you have to do is start reading the European Space Agency's publications, and you'll see what's other things that are happening. Because what we don't announce, someone else has already taken care of. The European Space Agency did, in fact, launch very large missiles at Elenin, and a lot of people don't know that either. But they did.
I knew it broke up. That's all they were saying, that it had broken apart. But it's still, I guess it's, what is it now, just a debris field?
Yes.
Because it's trapped.
And then again, that's right, because it's still trapped in our in our solar system's pool, because when you break an object up, although scientists will say as it loses mass, it also loses its pool.
That's right.
But it never made it out far enough to escape Jupiter, so it's going to be slingshotted right back around to it.
Our sun is traveling through the galaxy, and as it does so in the arm of the Orion arm in the galaxy, it's going at speeds that I couldn't even tell you. It's tremendous speeds. It creates a vortex, and the sun is going and spinning, and the Earth and Jupiter and Moon and all these things are caught up in that vortex, and we're going around and around as it's traveling. As we're traveling around this pancake, or this plane, this elliptical plane of the galaxy, we're not just going straight around. We're going up and down like a roller coaster all the way around. Just like our Earth wobbles when it goes around the sun. And that gives us the seasons. Well, we're wobbling, the entire solar system is wobbling as it goes around the plane of the ecliptic. And when it does that, it goes through different parts of that Milky Way street, or that plane of that elliptical plane of the galaxy. We go above it and we go below it. And it takes thousands of years to do that. So for a long time we're above it, where it's not as dense, the area that we're traveling through. And then we go closer to the elliptical, and it gets in that part of the galaxy where there's just a very dense number of objects, debris, and stars. That's where we're heading into, and that's why we're having all of these meteor showers and things that's going to be coming to the Earth. Also, that is why science, if you notice the other day when that big meteor hit Russia, they went to Congress and they asked NASA in Congress, why didn't you guys see it? And NASA's answer was, it came from the sun. And then at that meeting they said they had found all these pieces that could hit the Earth, but there is a portion of them that are coming from the sun that they won't be able to map, and they need a different telescope to be able to see those. Well, what we, the public, are not being told is that all of them, almost, are going to come from the direction of the sun. Because, as I just said, the sun is in the lead, and we, Earth, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, everything, we're following the sun. It's going like this around the galaxy. We're trailing behind it in its vortex, and that's why it looks like we're going around the sun. So it's going, and the sun's in the lead, and we're behind. So as that sun passes objects in this dense part of the galaxy, it's going to go by these planets before we do. And so that's why all of these meteors and comets and things that we're going to be seeing are going to be coming from the direction of the sun.
Now, in this scenario, we have an object approaching the Earth with a magnetic field. Now, this is what Michael was talking about. Again, we wouldn't be able to see it in the infrared, but as its magnetic field entwines with the Earth's, how is that going to affect this tilt we're in this extreme weather? Do you see what I'm saying? And as it gets closer, he's talking about lightning storms and energy transfers. And with our shields being weakened from the solar blast, how close will it have to get before we start seeing these effects? There's been other information besides just Michael about some type of energy behind the Earth. We've seen it before. We've seen the magnetopause reverse. Now, there's a lot of scenarios involved in that, the tilt of the Earth. And listen, as we look at the CME that we haven't had to deal with yet, notice it released from the right of the sun there. That just happened today, and we've got not a lot of large solar flares. We're watching them. We still have a filament here that has not released. We watched it come around the sun, but here's the CME, the coronal mass ejection. But in the scenario of the two objects with the magnetic fields that we were looking at, we have to think of the polarity of the object below the Earth. Is it matched? Is its north pole magnetic field matched polarities with the south pole of the sun? That would be the strongest object to be opposite polarities. Or is it the same? And will that push the south pole away from it, shifting the Earth further over that way? Or will it attract the north pole of the Earth? You understand what I'm saying?